Hey, welcome to Life After Nursing School. I'm your host, Caroline Dana, aka Nurse Coach Caroline, and I'm here to help you, the new nurse, thrive in your career. As a former nurse recruiter, nurse manager, and now your personal new nurse career coach, I'm obsessed with making sure you don't just survive your first couple of years at the bedside. I want you to absolutely rock them. From the challenges to the triumphs, I'll be right here with you, giving you the real-world advice and support that you need to shine. Whether you're in nursing school getting ready for life after, or you're already out there in nurse life feeling overwhelmed or even questioning your confidence, I've got your back. I'll be sharing tips, tricks, resources, and strategies that are just for you. We'll dive into everything from landing that dream nursing job to slaying imposter syndrome, and most importantly, how to keep that spark alive and stay the vibrant and amazing nurse that you are. So if you're ready to tackle the things nursing school did not cover, like how to build a career, trust yourself, and keep your passion strong, then get comfortable because we are about to dive in and make nurse life the best life. Today's guest is David Rosenbeck, a board-certified family nurse practitioner and co-founder of Go Beyond the Bedside. When his team first reached out to me, I actually said no. I didn't think remote nursing was something that my audience wanted to hear about, especially new grad nurses. But when I asked many of you via email as well as on social media, the overwhelming response was yes. So here we are, and I'm so glad because this conversation opened my eyes to what's really possible beyond the hospital walls. David's journey went from CVICU and ER to oncology nurse practitioner, where one powerful patient encounter shifted everything. That moment led him to remote nursing, a path that's now given him freedom, flexibility, and the chance to travel to 39 states and 7 countries with his wife while still using his nursing degree. In this episode, we dive into what remote nursing really looks like, how to avoid the noise in job postings, and why David created Go Beyond the Bedside to help nurses find legitimate remote opportunities. All right, let's dive in. So welcome, David.
Hello, how's it going? Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, I do have to say for everyone listening, initially David's team did reach out and say, hey, David would love to be on the podcast. And I pretty much said, no, thanks. Because I didn't think that people wanted to hear about remote nursing. I know many of the people in my audience are newer nurses. So I was quick to say, oh no, they're not really interested in that at this point in their career. But I did say in that same email to your team, David, I said, but let me just check with them. So I sent out an email to my email list. I sent out something on social media, and I got an overwhelming amount of yes, we would like him on the podcast. So then I felt very awkward going back to your team being like, oh, silly me. I don't know everybody as well as I think I do. So I am glad that you're here, and thank you for being willing to come on the show after I said no.
Oh, of course. Oh my gosh, no. Yeah, that's because it's such a weird niche within nursing that nobody really knows about. Like, it's the first reaction from just about everybody that I talk to. They're like, what do you mean, like remote nursing? I don't want to do that, because everybody, their first thought is, oh, telehealth or something like that. I don't want to do that. But that's just like a tiny little portion of remote nursing that I'm sure we'll get into. But it's usually people's first reaction is kind of, yeah, no, I don't know about that. And then once you dig into it a little bit more, you're like, wait a minute, tell me more.
So true. And I also think too that this newer generation of nurses, I think they aren't going to put up with as much as we've put up with in our career. So it was really exciting to see them say, yeah, we'd love to learn more earlier on in our career about what these other avenues look like. So I would love to hear your life after nursing school. If you don't mind, like catching us up to speed, what did that look like initially when you got out of nursing school, and how did you end up here co-founding Go Beyond the Bedside?
Yeah, for sure. Initially, whenever I got through nursing school, I started working in the CVICU. I was there for a year. And then after a year, I was like, I think I'm a little bit too type B for the ICU. And so I was like, where else do type B people land? They go to the ER. So I went to the ER, worked there for 3 years. I absolutely loved it. It was so much fun. It was right my style. It was either you admit, you discharge, you transfer. That's the only 3 options, and get to either one of those 3 as fast as you can and keep moving. Like that was what I loved about it. But then in the meantime, some of my buddies that I was living with in college, they they decided to go back to NP school. So I was like, okay, if you guys are going back, I might as well go back as well. Because frankly, whenever I was at the bedside, I was just like, I don't think I can do this for 40 years. I don't think I'm cut out for this. Like being able to stick it out for the long haul, I was like, there's got to be something different. And so I was like, I thought NP school would probably be my out, if you will, of just regular bedside nursing. And so went through NP school, worked in the ER during NP school. And then once I graduated, I was expecting to go ICU or critical care or something like that, just because that was my background. And one of my buddies that I was going to school with, he was actually working for an interventional oncology surgical endoscopy group. And I was like, what does that mean? So I went and job shadowed with his group, and it was heavy on the oncology side of things. And basically we did the advanced upper GI scoping for ultrasounds of the pancreas, for pancreatic masses, for cancer, esophageal cancer, liver cancer. And so it was cool because I got inpatient and outpatient. We saw our own patients on the inpatient side. We did consultations, we rounded in the hospital, but then also we would have rotations where we were in the clinic and we'd see those same patients that we saw in the hospital. So you really developed like a cool relationship with these patients. And I loved how much autonomy we had. Our docs were amazing. They basically said, go out, do everything in the hospital, take care of everything. If you need us, we're here scoping, come back in, endoscopy, ask us whatever questions you need, and then continue on. So I love the amount of autonomy that I got with that job.
Your patient population sounds like they could be really taxing though.
Oh yeah, yeah, it was heavy. So developed a really good relationship with all these people, and inevitably with the type of malignancies we were working with, very heavy cancers. And it was really, there was one guy that kind of tipped me over the edge. I was going, it was the end of my workday almost. I was working, it was like my day 6 of 7 working the inpatient rotation, and had a consultation come through, big pancreatic mass, Mets to liver, and he was like a 52-year-old guy. And I've probably seen dozens, if not hundreds of pancreatic masses before that. And I went down there, went to the ER, and I was getting ready to walk into his room. I pulled back the little curtain on the glass wall and peeked inside there. He's yellow as a highlighter in there because his pancreatic mass is pushing on his bile duct. But he was happy just sitting in there, chopping it up with his wife, laughing, BSing around. And for whatever reason, something just was different about him. And I was like, man, I'm going to walk in and just ruin this guy's life, like with what I'm going to go in there and I'm going to talk to him about. And so went in there, had the talk with him, told him what was going on, told him what the next steps were. And I followed up with him in the outpatient setting. He ended up passing away. I think it was like 7 months later, something like that. During my talk with him, he caught me off guard at the end of it because he was like, man, he's like, I was so close. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, I am an entrepreneur. I built my own business and I was just about ready to hand off the entire business to my kids. Like I said, he was like 52 or 55. I can't remember exactly the age. And he was like, my wife and I, we were just about ready to start living the life that we always wanted to. We were going to start traveling. We have a motorcycle. We're going to take off. We're going to drive across the country. We're going to do all these things. And he was like, and now I have this. And just, man, it hit me like a dagger. And I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit and I've always wanted to travel. And I think I just saw a little bit of him in me whenever I was doing the consult with him. And I was like, I don't want to have to work for the next 40 years and then hopefully have some of the good times to be able to go travel. And shortly after that, I started looking around for remote jobs. And because I thought that could maybe give me what I was looking for. And it just so happened, one of my palliative NP colleagues, Kara, she was like, I hadn't seen her for 3 months. And I was like, where's Kara at? I started asking around to people and they're like, oh, she's working remotely now. I'm like, what do you mean she's working remotely? Like, how do you do that? Like, I had never heard of anybody working remotely before that. So I called up Kara after I got off work that day and she told me what was going on. And she told me how she had found her job and she started looking around. So I started looking and I had been an NP for 3 years at that time. So I had plenty of good experience. But whenever I was looking around, it's like not a ton of the jobs really translated over to what I was looking for. Cause it's like, you don't need an interventional GI nurse practitioner working remotely. You need somebody like that at the bedside. It was such a daunting task because if you go on LinkedIn right now, anybody can do it. Go on LinkedIn right now, type in nurse into the search box, click the remote job only box, and you'll get well over 25,000 job listings on there. And the vast majority of them are bogus. They're either travel nursing assignments, they're old listings, they're not actively accepting any applications. And even if you trim it down to just the jobs posted within the last 24 hours, it's usually over 2,000 jobs that are posted in 24 hours. And so it was so much sifting through BS, trying to find what I wanted, applying to a bunch of different jobs, emailing people, oh no, this has already been filled. And it was just such a painful process, but I got lucky and I landed a job and I've been working remotely ever since. And once I took off, my wife and I, we've been traveling for the last like 3.5 years now. We're currently in Jersey City, New Jersey, right across the Hudson from New York City. And we've hit, I think, 39 states now and 7 countries in the last 3 years, just because we've had the ability to travel. And I actually get get to use my PTO working remotely.
Imagine
What a
that.
crazy thing, right?
I know. Okay, so much I want to say here. I know you gave us like everything in a nutshell, so thank you for that. Okay, the story about the gentleman with the pancreatic cancer and having that kind of aha moment, that I can totally understand that. My dad had lung cancer and he always talked about when like he dreamt of his retirement. It was like we're like living smart now so I can live like a king later. We're going to do all these things. It was all these grand plans, and then he died at 57 and never got to enjoy that. And I totally now I'm like, I want to enjoy every day to a degree.
Exactly.
We're gonna have stuff like, say I had to go to the dentist. Do I want to? No, I hate the
Yeah.
dentist. But aside from that, like I love what I get to do every single day. And I think that is so like powerful to know and understand rather than constantly be putting off like that special time. So it's great that at least you were able to change your whole life off of that one patient interaction. And obviously the patient never knew that, but to know that someone's life can really change the trajectory of your own is just, it's so powerful and so cool in a way. So I love that impacted you. And then hearing a little bit about your bedside life, or going remote, I should say. I was a remote nurse recruiter for a little while, and it was the best ever because I went from being a nurse manager of the dumpster fire unit of the hospital. Okay. The mess. We got COVID, med surge, and behavioral health. Like that's the trifecta. Okay. So I went from that to being a remote nurse recruiter, and I got an hour lunch break. I could start whenever I wanted. They trusted me as long as I was getting all my work done. I could throw in a load of laundry. I could literally start a crock pot meal. I was getting my kids on and off the bus. I'm not kidding, David. I went from so unfulfilled to like the most fulfilled in a way. I ended up really missing certain things about nursing. The life, to live a life remote was just so opposite of being a nurse in the hospital setting. You go from the most stressful environment to never having to put a bra on. I know that doesn't apply, but like I was like wearing my pajamas all day. It did get to a point where I was like, all right, Caroline, you got to work on your hygiene here. Just because you're home, you can't just rot. But it was such a wildly different life that made me on a personal level, I felt so much better as a human.
I completely agree because I went from my thought process always was because I wanted to travel so badly after that. I actually started working with another company or was going through the processes with this other company called Wilderness Medical Staffing to where they staff Idaho, Washington, Montana, Alaska, and something else, 5 states. And you make crazy money. Like you can make an entire year's salary in 4 or 5 months. And so I was thinking, okay, so it's basically like locums for NPs. So I could go work in the middle of nowhere for a little while, make a boatload of cash, and then my wife and I could go take off traveling. And so I was actually in the process of that whenever I found my remote job. And I'm so glad that I went this route instead of that route because a lot of nurses, they think, oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to be a traveling nurse. That's going to be my way that I can go travel and I can do all these Instagram things that everybody wants to do. But you're still tied to that hospital. You're still tied to whatever your next contract is. And the good assignments, they usually don't pay very well. And the bad assignments in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma or whatever, those are the ones that pay well that you don't really want to go to anyways. But with this, it's such a different animal because you get the best of both worlds. You get a consistent salary, you get really good benefits, you get the pay is incredible. I'm north of 6 figures, and most of the people I talk to and most of the jobs that we see on the website are pushing that 6 figure mark. I know other places like Bay Area, etc. Everybody's making well north of 6 figures as a nurse. But if you're looking for something that is just very flexible and you can go wherever you want to go and your workstation is wherever your laptop is, that's the remote working is the way to go.
And there comes a point in time though where like you're even willing to take a pay cut for a better life. Like I actually, from going from nurse manager to a travel nurse recruiter, took a pay cut, but I was like the happiest I'd been in so long just with my day-to-day life. And I think, yes, of course, like we all want to make money. We all have bills to pay. Sometimes like the money doesn't even matter. Or you start chasing the money and you realize you're even more unhappy. And you're like, this isn't like, why am I doing all this if I'm not even happy?
Yeah. And if you take a 10-15% pay cut, let's say, but you get, let's say you have a 30-45 minute commute to work each day, that's time that you're getting. And then on top of that, you're spending money to buy a crappy lunch at the cafeteria every day. So then your health is deteriorating on top of all the stress and everything else that you have in this way. And you may have kiddos at home that you would normally have had to pay for childcare, which we don't have any kids yet, but I know that childcare is crazy expensive. So really, if you start to stack everything against each other and you go with the quality of life with this money savings and also just like the health benefits, I didn't realize how crappy I was eating at the hospital until I was like, oh, I can just make a nice nice healthy breakfast at home, a
Yeah.
nice healthy lunch. And like you said, have supper ready whenever we get home or whenever I'm just working on things. It just the lifestyle column
Yeah.
and all the benefits versus just looking at the black and white pay scale. The lifestyle quality of life that you get out of this is so much more worth it than the little bit of extra money.
It's true. And even like you were talking about commute, I had so much time back in my day. I wasn't commuting half an hour there, half an hour back. I also paid for parking at my
Mm,
hospital too. So it was like more money out the window. And I just feel when I worked remote, I was able to work out way more consistently, do a lot of
mhm.
things. Like I was ordering Instacart middle of the day for the cheapest rate because I was home to put it in the fridge.
Yeah.
And I think it's these little things that we realize actually when you add them all up, just make your life so much easier. And I was like, felt like I could get a lot of my chores, if you will. Like I have 3 kids. So it's like laundry, it's like all the things. I was
Mhm.
getting that all done during the week. And then my weekends, I could just be like with my family. We traveled, I worked on the go. It was so nice. I would get my kids to soccer, sit in the car, put on my hotspot, keep working. Like I went from probably cortisol just pumping through my veins all day long to
Mhm.
now, like I said, sitting at home in comfortable clothes and interacting on my terms, workflow on my terms.
Yeah, that was the thing. It was weekends and holidays. That's another thing. Like whenever you work a salary job like this, 0 weekends, 0 holidays, you're off every single day at the same exact time. Like the amount of predictability that you have in your day, it just makes things so much easier as well. And just like your quality of life just goes up
Yeah.
exponentially. Like it's just been such an incredible experience.
And I also feel like if people are on the fence with doing remote work, consider like going remote, but then keeping your traditional job per diem, right? If you're, oh, I'm worried I'm going to lose my skills. But I will almost bet you're gonna take that remote job, you're gonna stay per diem, and then you're gonna be like, I don't want to stay per diem anymore. I just want to live my
Yeah.
remote life. And but I feel like that's a good way to do it. Nursing has so much flexibility in that respect
Mhm.
that you really could
Yeah.
at least keep a foot in the door if you were like on the fence of leaving bedside completely.
Yeah, me and Colton Lord with nurse.org, they just started a new podcast called Club Nurse. Me and him basically dug into this like the majority of the time.
Oh,
And it was like
really? Okay.
nurses are, they eat their young. We know that. We know that they
Hmm.
do. And
Yes.
then on top of that, nurses have such a like a visceral feeling of I am a nurse. They're very proud of it and that's part of their identity. And then
Yeah.
they won't let go of that identity, even though it may lead them to something better. And it's like, why are you holding on to that? Because you are not, your career is not always going to be there for you, but your life, your family, they should
Yeah.
hopefully always be there for you. And so thinking about it from a different perspective of my identity is not just tied up in being a nurse and you don't really have to worry about all the people because I even got some flack for it whenever I decided I was going to go remote. I had to put a
Oh,
90-day notice in since I was a provider at the hospital. And of course
oh.
everybody's, oh yeah, going remote, taking it easy now. It's like, you're damn right I am. Like those were the same people that were reaching out to me saying, hey, how do I find one of these jobs? What are you doing on the coast in Oregon right now? That's crazy. And so that's why we decided to start Go Beyond the Bedside to try and help some people out with getting their remote jobs.
I love that. Yeah, I do think sometimes nursing can be a little bit cult-like, and we really do hang on to that identity. But the minute you break away from it, you realize you're more than just a nurse. I shouldn't
100%.
say just, but I think we do put that label first, and we shouldn't.
Yeah.
There's because that limits us so much. Now, I love so much that you created Go Beyond the Bedside to really help that filtering system and to get those like true jobs that are out there, make it easier for people. Can you share some different remote jobs that are out there? Because I do think I know there's like CDI nursing, there's legal nursing, there's triage nurses that are remote.
Mhm.
Because I do think people are like, oh, I want to be a remote nurse, but people think you automatically have to work with an insurance company or they don't really know what's out there. Could you give a little,
Exactly.
like some examples of some of these things?
Yeah, so there's depending on what you want. Some people they want to still have that patient interaction. They still want to communicate with people. They want to talk to patients. And there's plenty of remote nursing jobs that are like that. So like my friend Kara that I was talking about, she went on and she was a oncology navigator for people that got a recent diagnosis. And so basically like with especially with my group, like they're waking up from anesthesia, their spouse is in the room and they're like, "Hey, we've got this mass here and we're going to do XYZ. Hey, sorry, I got to go. I got my next scope in the next room that's already sedated. If you have any questions, follow up." You know, it's a very fast thing. So then somebody like Kara, who works remotely, can step in and they're like your liaison throughout the entire process. If they're like, hey, so what exactly is this? Where is it? What are we going to do about it? What is radiation? What does chemotherapy exactly do? How long is it going to last? And you can actually just like sit down and walk somebody through this process. And it's a very gratifying job because you get to help people. And that's what we got into this for. We wanted to help people. But me, on the other hand, I was getting into some real estate investing and like doing short term rentals meals and some other things. And so I wanted something that gave me even more flexibility throughout my day and I could work on productivity. With my job, I do work for an insurance company to where I do clinical appeals analysis, to where you get to kind of go in and play CSI a little bit. So basically, whenever I was interviewing for my job that I was going to take with the insurance company, my biggest question that I had for them was, okay, am I the good guy that says yes to everything, or am I the bad guy that says no to everything? And they told me, no, you're the good guy. You get to say yes to everything. I was like, oh, beautiful. I'll take it. No problem then. And so basically what I do is it's a argument between the hospital and the insurance company, as it always is. Luckily, the patient isn't involved in this conversation whatsoever. And so I never have to worry about something that I do financially affecting the patient. It's all between the hospital and the insurance company. And so I go in, I review the chart of the patient, what was done, XYZ, and then I write an appeal letter medically justifying why what was done in the hospital. And then you just send a letter out to the insurance company to try and say, hey, this is why this happened. And I got this job. I'm the only nurse practitioner on my team. All the rest are nurses. So this is a job that nurses can have. I work on a productivity basis. So as fast as I can get or hit my productivity threshold for the day, then I can just coast for the rest of the day and I can do other stuff if I want to. I can take the dogs for a walk. I can do whatever I need to do, which is nice. That's why I wanted something that was less patient facing. I don't have to make any phone calls during the day. I don't have to have Zoom meetings. I don't have to have anything. I just work in the background versus you're patient facing. Then you're going to have a little bit more of a scheduled day. And so you'll be busy throughout the day. But some people, they still want to have that interaction. Me, I was just more willing to be on the back end side of things.
That's nice. I like that your position. It sounds like yes, if you work hard and get your stuff done, you have the freedom for the rest of your day of like whatever it may be. And so you can go in other directions of other passions, like starting Go Beyond the Bedside or getting into real estate, like you said. And I think that's so great because most nurses really are multi-passionate, but sometimes we get that tunnel vision of we're a nurse and that's it. And we have to work within the walls of the hospital. But if you branch out to these other opportunities, you actually can try these like side passion projects that you might fall in love with or that might light you up in a different way.
And especially with the Gen Z generation, they're all about side hustles. So everybody wants some sort of a side hustle. And so if you wanted a way to potentially turn your side hustle into your main hustle while you're still also using your degree and making six figures, like that, you talk a win-win. That's a win-win situation.
I totally agree. Now, if someone's okay, I definitely want to be a remote nurse, but I don't know which one, how do you recommend they research it? Should they just be going on to Google and looking up different type of positions? Is there like a resource you recommend people going to just to understand what each position entails?
Yeah, so we have a PDF that I put together that goes over like the 8 most common jobs that we see come through on our platform, because that was actually my sister-in-law. She's a nurse and we used her as kind of like a guinea pig because she was wanting to look for something remote. Okay, well, you walk through the process and then tell me like maybe our blind spots, because my business partner and I, Alberto, we worked on this for 14 months before we finally launched it. And we thought we had everything squared away. And then the first thing she says is, I don't know what any of these are. Like, I don't know what any of this
You're
means.
like, what?
You know? I'm like, oh crap, because that was just like my world. That was my understanding. And so we revamped a little bit. We went through, we found our 8 most common jobs and we have descriptions for them. What kind of backgrounds are better applied for these types of jobs? What type of personality is better for these types of jobs? And so if anybody's interested in that, they can just shoot us a DM over on @Go Beyond the Bedside, and we can send that PDF over to you. And we could probably even share it with you guys if you wanted to share it with your list.
Absolutely. I can put it in the show notes or send
Fantastic.
it out on my list. Now, are there any like red flags that you recommend people keep an eye out if you're looking at a job? Is there something, a red flag that you're like, oh, this might mean that this company is more like micromanaging, or this, I don't know, something that people should be aware of when they are looking up these jobs?
Really, the main thing is just making sure that it seems like there are specifics in the job posting, because there's a lot of just very broad, generic listings out there. And if you actually go back, because we have all the data, we have access, we go through, I mean, I think it's roughly like 2,000 jobs per day, as we said, in like the LinkedIn that comes through. And so we filter all of that through, and then it ends up coming down to only about 50 jobs that come out of our filter system per day. So if you think about if somebody's actually trying for a remote job, if you had to look through 2,000 job listings per day to try and find those 50 jobs that are actually worth taking a look at, and then deciding which one of those 50 you want to apply to, it's going to take you hours and hours of time, and you're just going to give up. I almost did whenever I was going through it, because it's like, you throw your hands up, you're like, this is bogus, remote nursing is not real, whatever. And so it's a pain in the butt process to try and figure out. And so if you can have a way that you can distill down that information, you can actually see these different job postings. And we have nurses on our team. These are jobs for nurses, chosen by find nurses. We have very strict criteria. They need to be fully remote jobs. They need to be actively available and accepting positions right now. And we see them go really quickly because we have all the back end data on them. And it's usually 24 to 48 hours, those jobs are already gone, which is crazy. And so that's why having something that can give you notifications, Go Beyond the Bedside, we can give you email alerts of jobs that fit your criteria, whether you have, hey, I have a Texas license and I work in med surg and I'm interested in a full-time job. So then we can start sending you more tailored jobs. And so then whenever those jobs come through they go very quickly, you can be one of those first people that lay eyes on it, get your application in quickly.
Oh, yeah, that's great. So I really help new grads find their first job, and it's such a competitive market, and people don't realize that because it's
Yeah.
just flooded. The market gets flooded with new grads, and then there's only so many positions at every hospital. And I have heard it's similar with remote nursing, where it's just so competitive because people do want to work remote,
Yeah.
and these jobs just they are posted and then they're taken down quickly. If you're not on top of those postings, you're going to miss that opportunity.
100%. I think we looked up the last stats that we saw. It was on, I forget what website it was on. It was on one of the big nurse.org or something like that. And I think it's because there's 3.7 million nurses in the world or in the country. And they said 67% of them are reporting burnout. And I think 34% are reporting that they're thinking about leaving the profession within the next 24 months. So then you get all of those. Plus, I just heard the stat. We went to NurseCon, Nurse Blake at
Awesome.
that camp that he did. So we went out there, my business partner and I, and we were talking to some other people out there, and it was somebody that kind of specialized with Gen Z nurses and like new grads, and they were saying it was something staggering. It was like 30% of Gen Z nurses are leaving the profession within 24 months of graduation because they're just like, I'm not putting up with this. And that's
Oh,
something that
yeah.
I think Gen Z is actually going to change the nursing landscape, because if you
Yeah.
have an entire generation of nurses that aren't going to put up with the crap that the hospitals have
Yeah.
been giving us over the last 5 decades,
Yeah.
then something's going to have to change because the people are not getting healthier. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Hospitals are desperate to get these nurses in there. So I think staffing ratios and all those other things are really going to change with the Gen Z nursing generation.
So let's talk a little bit more about these Gen Z or like newer nurses. Are there opportunities for remote nursing for new grads? I have some connections in the remote world, and every once in a while I have a colleague who will be like, "Hey, this posting is for new grads. Just if you have anyone that you know that's interested, they should
Yeah.
apply." Are there positions like that?
They are a little bit few and far between.
Yeah.
Usually they like to have a little experience, but the good news is it's usually like maybe a year of experience. If you get a year
Okay.
of any sort of bedside experience
Okay.
whatsoever, then you can apply to just about any of these jobs that we have on our platform and you're going to be good to go.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. Okay, I do love that. Now, what is like your mission behind Go Beyond the Bedside? And like, I know clearly what inspired you to find it was just your own experience of, wow, this is like really hard to actually find a real listing or one that applies to me. Like, what is your mission and vision for Go Beyond the Bedside?
Yeah. So really, I just know how it feels whenever you're just like, whenever you finally tip over that edge and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I don't want to do this anymore. And then you start feeling hopeless or helpless because you're like, okay, I just, went through 4 years of grueling schooling. I took the NCLEX and now I'm grinding away at this job. I'm stuck. And those people that feel stuck, we wanted an easy way to help them out because we know nurses are super busy. Most of them, they've got a spouse, they've got kids, they've got all this other stuff going on. They don't have the time to look through all these listings and spend literally hours per day is what our team is
Oh.
putting in to sort through all of these. They don't have time for that. And so we're just hoping to help out that nurse that's like, I don't have time to find this, but I desperately need it. And I don't want somebody's nursing degree to go to waste because there are other options.
Yeah, and I think when nurses are feeling stuck, they're automatically like, I need to go back to school, which I know you
Yes.
became an NP. I got my master's in leadership and management. How do you feel about the fact that you went back to school to be an NP?
Oh, I just said that I don't need my degree for my current job that I have. So
No,
I don't regret it. I enjoyed it.
of
I love
course.
the work that I did. Hindsight being 2020, if I would have known about this path that I could have taken and my wife and I could have started traveling basically 5 years
Yeah.
earlier, I would have gone that route in a heartbeat because then I wouldn't have taken on that extra debt, that extra time, that extra commitment, all of that extra that I had to do to be able to get my NP. I agree. That is usually the only way that we're taught of if you don't like your current
Yes.
position, the only other option is to advance your degree. But then there is other options to where you can break away, You can get out of the cycle of being inside the medical system if you want to, and you can take a step back, still use your degree, get paid really well, and actually have a form of work-life balance.
Yeah, I do think that is such a common narrative that we are fed starting in nursing school. Like I
Yeah.
remember professors being like, not if you go back to school, but when you go back to school.
Yeah.
I'm not even out of school yet. What do you mean? And I think all of my nursing friends that I graduated with in college, like most of them have gone back for their NP. And actually, a lot of them say they don't really make much more money, or their hours suck because they're mid-level, or their requirements are really tough. They're still working weekends and holidays and things. So it's like funny that we believe this narrative or hope that it really is a path to something better and greater. But at the end of the day, like it is not the only path out there. And I would challenge whoever's listening that's considering to go back to school to really like think again, because I do need my master's to be a clinical instructor, which is what I do part-time. But I like when I left management, my husband was like, didn't you get your master's so you could be a nurse manager? I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to be one anymore. I was like, wow, why did I even get that degree? Part of it, I really don't regret anything, because I do think it's probably how we ended up here. But man, my life could have been simpler and less expensive had I not.
Well, I mean, if the thought process is the only way to continue upward and onward to get out of this is more schooling, look at a physician, look at a surgeon. How often are they reporting burnout and they hate their job? They're tired of the hours. And you could just keep on going through schooling to the end of the earth, but it's never going to change the fact that medicine, you just are having some of these aspects that really start to eat away at people. Very sick patients and hazardous working conditions. We've seen so many times now where nurses are getting assaulted at work and all these other things, hospitals covering it up. It's just like a whole mess. And so if you just want to be able to take a step back from that entire process, but you still want to use your degree, this is just such an awesome alternative.
It really is so incredible. I'm so glad that people are interested in hearing about this, because I think, honestly, the more of us that leave traditional nursing, the more stress that's going to be put on these hospitals to make changes. So that the bedside life isn't as grueling as it is, or unstable, if you will. Now, before we kind of get into our final few questions, tell me a little bit more about Go Beyond the Bedside. What does that look like for someone that's interested in signing up? What is the cost of that?
Yeah, so we wanted to make it super approachable because Alberto and I, we're both doing this as just kind of like a passion project, because I still work full-time remote. I have I have real estate, I have other stuff that I'm working on, but this was really just because I was just getting flooded with DMs constantly of people saying, how are you doing this? How can I find a remote job? And basically I was like, my entrepreneurial brain, I was like, there's obviously a problem here and people were looking for a solution. And instead of me trying to like individually help all these people, I'm like, okay, instead of, how's the saying go, instead of teaching them or giving them a fish, we're going to teach them how to fish. So basically what Go Beyond the Bedside is, we take all of those thousands and thousands of jobs, we filter them down into a very short, concise list that people can apply to directly from the website. And actually, I just got a new job from Go Beyond the Bedside. I'm starting my new position at the end of this month. And once I started looking for it, thank you. Once I started looking for it, I was like, let's put my money where my mouth is and see where we get. And so I sat down, we were in Sedona, Arizona at the time, sat outside on our back patio in the sunshine. Took me 45 minutes. I applied to 7 different jobs. I heard back from 3 of them, and then I accepted one of the positions all within 3 weeks. It was crazy. I was like, oh, it works. Okay. And so like I said, we're not looking to do anything crazy with this. We just literally want to help people find remote work. And so I was like, we're not going to make this any sort of crazy expensive thing. I want to make it very approachable, very easy for people. So it's $15 a month to be able to have full access to our list. I'm like, that's the price of a sandwich and a Starbucks coffee. That's so easy and so approachable for everybody. And we wanted to make it just something that was accessible no matter what.
Yeah, definitely. I really love that so much. I think people do get stuck on a cost of something and they don't always want to invest in themselves. And I think lowering that buy-in amount will allow people to really explore more options and potential positions out there.
Yeah, because that's okay. If you're not willing to spend $15, then you're not really that serious about trying to find a job. Exactly.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And honestly, they might see, but I don't know. And then they're going to go on LinkedIn, see 5 million positions and go, okay, wait, $15 isn't so bad.
Yeah, it's basically, what do you value your time at? If you spend 20 hours trying to find a job versus 20 minutes, what's 20 hours divided by 15? You're getting paid 60 cents an hour for that. Like, that's not worth it. That's not worth your time.
No, not at all. Now, where can listeners find you, find more about Go Beyond the Bedside? If they want to learn more, where should we direct the listeners today?
Yeah, so our website is just gobeyondthebedside.com. And then our Instagram is at Go Beyond the Bedside. And so if anybody has any questions, they can shoot us a direct DM. It goes straight to me. I run it. We don't have any big team or anything like that. It's just a small bootstrap company that are just trying to help
Okay.
people out. So if anybody has any questions, shoot us a message. And yeah, if you head on over to the website, it's very easy. You can actually see we have a list of 10 current jobs that are listed on there that are
Great.
just featured. You can look at them. You have full access. You can apply to one of those 10 jobs if you want to, just to check everything out. But if you want access to the full list, super easy. You can use Apple Pay, subscribe, and get in there, and you can get the full list and start applying right away.
Awesome. Now, I end every single show asking my guests that if they could go back to their new grad self, so new grad nurse David, and if you could tell him something, either a piece of advice or a tip, whatever it may be, words of encouragement, what would you say to new grad David?
Oh, I would say don't follow the narrative that everybody's telling you because, like we talked about before, everybody is saying that, oh no, bedside nursing is the only way. That's the only way that you're going to make more money is if you advance your degree. Bedside nursing is the only way that you're going to be able to have more freedom. Because I was sold that whenever I was going into NP school, it was like, oh yeah, you'll have an office job, you'll have the easier hours, you'll make more money, XYZ. In all reality, I was working more hours as an NP. I was making more money and I did have more autonomy. I did enjoy the work, but I was still tied to one hospital. I still had a lot of difficulty taking PTO. I was more stressed than what I ever was at the bedside. And it didn't give me what I was hoping for whenever I went to NP school, which was like more of a work-life balance, more peace of mind, and just like allow me to relax at the end of the day. Because whenever you're still thinking about those patients that you're caring for, and like you know that, oh, I just had this meeting with this one patient. I'm going to follow up with them in 2 weeks. Hopefully they're still doing okay. It's a lot. And so not listening to the narrative that is always fed to everybody. And also, don't listen to the crotchety old nurses that are on the floor that are saying, oh, you're going to go remote? Oh, geez, you must not be able to hack it, huh? Oh, yeah, you're being a big wimp right now. It's no, actually, I'm going to put myself first instead of putting this career first or even putting, before, because a lot of people, they feel a lot of guilt about thinking about leaving their
Yes.
unit because
Yes.
every unit's a dumpster fire. Every unit is short staffed.
Mhm.
Every unit has people that they're like, oh my gosh, if I would leave, then that's going to leave my manager in a tight
Yes.
spot, this and that. I'm sorry, that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is you, your family, and what you're going to do with the rest of your life. And so if you want to be able to live the life that you want to live, have the flexibility that you want to have, and be able to have the freedom to travel around and be location independent, then remote work is definitely the way to go.
Hell yeah. I love that so much, especially the narrative. I'm always saying on here, challenge those societal norms that we're told, like you have to go back to school and this and that, because you know what? There's so many amazing opportunities in our profession. And who knows, maybe you could be working remotely. That'd be great.
Exactly.
All through Go Beyond the Bedside, right?
Absolutely.
So, David, thank you so much for joining us today. I will admit I wasn't sure at first if this conversation would be the right fit for the show, but clearly we all had something to learn here today. I'm so grateful that you gave us your time, your wisdom, and a new perspective on what's possible for nurses, especially beyond the bedside. So, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And I hope that everybody learned a little something about it. And if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a DM.
Well, that's it for today's episode of Life After Nursing School. I hope you feel more confident and ready to tackle the challenges that come with starting your nursing career. Remember, the first year or two might not be easy, but with the right mindset, you can overcome anything. If you found value in today's episode, I'd love for you to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a future episode. Also, please consider leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform. It helps so much in reaching other new nurses like you. Thanks for listening, and remember, you've got this. Take care and see you next time.